So anyway, thank you, Priya, for running this course and for calling me. I'll be talking about a couple of examples of posterior capsular rent. So let's talk about something high tech, and that is you are looking at. Can I have a pointer, please? Is there a pointer? Pointer. Now this is a posterior polar cataract which we had diagnosed in the OPD. And you can see on the OCT, can you see this on the OCT of the femtocataract, that this is the polar cataract, clear cut on the OCT that is there. So I have planned to leave a much bigger cushion. Okay, so the cutting is here, and instead of a default of 500 to 800 microns, I have left a default, I think, of 1200 in this particular case. Now, basically, let's see what happens. We have docked, that is the anterior capsule. You can see this yellow line is still where I have, and I have left a huge area. So wherever the OCT was showing that this area is clear, I have left. And now I am doing the femtolaser assisted procedure. It is considered that a posterior polar cataract, the safety increases when you are doing a femtolaser, because you are actually making these quadrants which are higher up, and you are leaving a artificial posterior capsule in the form of a cushion. Okay, so we are doing this, and you can see the fragmentation, but you can see that there is some air which is getting trapped here. So I really don't know whether it had something to do with that, or in itself it looked as a very dangerous posterior polar. But let's just see. We go ahead. We have a wonderful capsulotomy. So in a posterior polar, you would wish to have a wonderful capsulotomy, and you see that the posterior part is still there. So I have removed one quadrant. This is the second quadrant that is being removed, and you can see, lo and behold, I immediately get. So don't withdraw. Inject viscoelastic, must have been told to you. And after injecting viscoelastic, you have some cushion for the nucleus. Now the problem is that because I did not do an aggressive hydrodissection, it is becoming a little bit more difficult for me to handle this. So what I do is that I make another incision there, and I go from the inferior part, so that this nuclear fragment I want to levitate out of the anterior capsular axis, and I use the second hand, put viscoelastic, and take a needle. You see that is a needle, that's a capsulotomy bent needle, so it is giving me a little bit more purchase. Use the lower one, again use this, and try to bring it out. So that is what is important, that needs to be done. And you can see that liberal use of viscoat at this particular point is what is important. And we have been able to get the nuclear fragment, now all of it, into the anterior capsule. Can you, above the anterior capsule, can you see that? So that is what is important, because we recognize that a rent has come. And now we go ahead and inject a 3-piece intraocular lens, which has been told to you earlier. Priya was talking, I didn't hear her speech, but maybe she has already shown you. But this is the IOL scaffold technique, and then you have the scaffold of the IOL, and now this is a cutter that is being used after the nuclear fragments have been removed. And you can inject triamcinolone and go ahead and finish the surgery. If you can see here, we have not put the upper haptic within the bag. So the upper haptic is put in below in the sulcus only after you have cleared everything, and then you go ahead and you have a round pupil in this particular case. I'll show you a case where in this particular case it's a pediatric cataract, and one of my colleagues was doing it. So there is a rhexis that has been done, and the doctor is doing a primary posterior capsular rhexis. It's in our center we prefer to use a 15-degree blade to start the capsular rhexis. You can see you get the capsular rhexis much better, and you can see that the capsular rhexis is coming out pretty well, though it is eccentric. But the primary posterior capsular rhexis is good. The child was below 1 year of age, so we just do a slight core anterior vitrectomy because it was eccentric. So the capsular rhexis has been extended. You can see that the capsular rhexis has been extended. Now, unfortunately, you need to be very careful at that particular point. This is GV that is being injected, which was told to him to inject GV to kind of inflate the bag so that you can put the single piece lens in the bag. But just watch this. It came with a push, and the lens is being lost in the sense that it has gone through the posterior capsular axis. It has extended it and it has gone. The only thing is that this got stuck here, so the lens didn't go in. So otherwise it would have been the fastest implantation of a lens in the vitreous cavity. So anyway, you have to just maneuver and take out the lens from this, and because the rexes are extended, we tried to do keep it in the bag with a pupil with a optic capture, but it wasn't working. So at the end of the procedure, we just brought it out, and as was said earlier, I fully believe that if you were to put a lens in a sulcus, it should be a 3-piece lens, but this would have been much more problematic because we were not expecting any problem in putting the lens in the bag. So this is how the case ended. Just a word of caution that I wanted to tell you was that despite when you actually your tension gets released that I have done everything, it's at that particular time, the last moment of doing your IA, or in this you are putting a lens and you just saw the jerk with which it is. So it's always better to have a screw type injector because you never get these jerks. And these jerks, irrespective, I still remember I had a live surgery that I was doing on a femtosecond, and it just went, the pressure was high, so you just do that, and just like I didn't have much of a problem there, it didn't rupture, but then it can do that. Now this is a case of a nightmare again.
A patient presented with a significant...
Now this is a multifocal IOL implantation which is in a subluxated cataract that you are wanting to see. You see that there's a subluxated cataract, and we were attempted to put a ring to stabilize this and to put a multifocal lens in this. So you're doing a capsular axis, as you can see, which is coming out all right. We do a gentle hydrodissection that is there, and you can, since the cataract is very soft, it's a young person, you can be reasonably comfortable as regards the phaco. Because it's a huge subluxation, you should not postpone the use of a CTR. So the CTR has been put right in the beginning. Just watch this now. Look at that. What is the problem that has happened in this particular case? I think the problem in this particular case was overconfidence. Because the parameters, if you could see the turbulence in the anterior chamber, the parameters were pretty high. And that is why you had a sudden surge and the capsule just got ruptured. Had the parameters been set lower, you would possibly not have ended up in this situation. So now over to my beautiful retina colleague, and since you have a retina person in the setup, you have to get a retina. We don't, at least I don't fish for it, and I don't. That's the best advice, that please do not cross the territory or the boundaries that you are not a master of. So anyway, in this particular case, the first thing is to retrieve the ECR. You saw that the ECR had not gone in totally, and you need to take out the ECR. You could tie a suture at the end of the ECR if you are going to put an ECR in a circumstance where you are unsure whether you will be able to control the surgery or complete the surgery, and then you can take it out. Okay? Otherwise, ECRs can be lost, and they can be lost into the vitreous. So now you see that these scleral flaps have been made, there is vitreous coming out, and you use a needle to create the sclerotomy, and then you go ahead with the vitrectomy cutter. The infusion is already been put, and you do a vitrectomy. Then you go ahead and inject triamcinolone, and once you have injected triamcinolone, you would see that where all the vitrectomy is required, and you go ahead and complete the vitrectomy. Now as you complete the vitrectomy, then you need to go on to the illuminating system. And once you have the illuminating and the imaging system, you can go ahead and look at this nuclear fragment, and with a very careful removal of the lens fragment, you can see there small. This is where you want an aspiration first and cutting later. Okay, so you just get it up and then you get the cutting, and you can see the pulsations and all, and you have been able to remove that. Now this is a 3-piece Technis multifocal lens. Now you typically get it in a single piece, but you will need a 3-piece lens. You are injecting this. When you are injecting lens, you have to ensure that the haptic is out. You don't want the whole thing to go in. You do more vitrectomy and remove the vitreous that is there. Then you do what is by using a two-hand technique. You can see that because this loop has gone in, you are just holding the loop and bringing it into the position of view. With the second hand, you are holding it and you are externalizing the haptic. Once you have exteriorized the haptics, your assistant will hold this haptic so that the lens doesn't slip in, and then you put in the second haptic, and from the area where you have the sclerotomy for under the flap, you just hold this and bring it out. Now, mind you, I always emphasize, and I'll like to re-emphasize, it is not the glue which holds the lens in position. You have to make a tunnel. As you can see, this is the vitrectomy that is being done. The tunnel in the sclera has to be made, and you can see this is a tunnel that is being made in the sclera, and the haptic needs to go into this tunnel. Until, of course, the haptic goes into the tunnel, the lens will fall. So you can modulate the amount of haptic that is tucked on the right side and the left side. And what that will do is it will help you centralize the lens. Okay, so you can, why I'm showing this particular case is that in a multifocal lens, you need the lens to be centered. So in a glued IOL technique, by just tucking the lens more on one side or more on the other side, you can see a picture of a very well centered glued IOL despite having all the problems, and it is a multifocal lens. So friends, these were a couple of cases that I just wanted to show you, the technique of glued IOL, the technique of IOL scaffold, and also telling you do not become lax. There are a couple of places where I showed laxity, that you just push the lens or you use parameters which were not good in case of a subluxated lens, and how to manage them. Thank you very much for your kind attention.